Small Town Expectations. My name is Brandi Rose. I'm here with my partner, Hales Bassing.
Hey.
We are here to bring you another small town story from another small town lady. Becky Johnson is our guest today, and we are excited to have her on. But first, we want to encourage you and remind you to like and review our podcast on whatever platform you are listening on, especially that Apple iTunes podcast.
Yeah.
That app, for whatever reason, has a very powerful algorithm that will the reviews and the rating system is really important on Apple. For whatever reason, we don't know why. We've just done some research and we learned that.
Sure.
So definitely go head over to whatever. Why can't I talk today? Head on over to whatever platform you listen on and like and review our podcast. Also, follow us on all social media. We are Small Town Expectations Podcast on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, we're super active. We will give you lots of updates as the week goes on. We'll give you lots of prompts to participate in small town conversations. And on Instagram, we just post cool little photos.
Yeah.
You can see some behind the scenes photos oftentimes, and you can see some baby pictures and things like that of our guests. It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
So follow us on social media. If you would like to be on the podcast, it's super easy to make that happen. All you have to do is email us at smalltownpodcast@yahoo.com. Super simple. Give us your name and a way to contact you, and we will make it happen. Let us know that you want to tell your story and that you want to, whether that means we call you on the phone or we meet you wherever you're at to record. Maybe you even come into our home to record, whatever that looks like for you. We would love for you to come on, tell your short story, and share your experiences. That's smalltownpodcast@yahoo.com. And really, we've done a full year, and so we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. We mean that in a very humble kind of way. This is something that we started just as an adventure, as kind of a side, what's going to happen? What can we do with this? It's a passion of ours.
Yeah.
And this is where it's taken us so far after a year, and we are having so much fun. And in our last podcast, in the last episode, we talked a lot about how grateful we are for the people who come on and get vulnerable. And we just want to express that again, that we really are very thankful for everyone who puts themselves out there to come on and tell their story.
Yeah.
Because legit, those stories are encouraging and they're very inspiring. And today,
we love people.
Yes, we do. And today we have another inspiring story. But before we get into that, we always want to highlight a community of some sort. Today we are highlighting a community idea, maybe is probably a way to describe that.
Yeah.
We want to talk about self-care today. We each have different ways that we take care of ourselves. We have stressful jobs. We have stressful lives sometimes. And it's important for people to know that there are ways for you to recognize when you need to take a break and when you need to do just give yourself a little TLC, right? Mine is my signal for me that I am stressed out and that I need to just take a break is this drilling pain right behind my left eye.
Yeah.
And then I start seeing floaters, and then I start getting tunnel vision where my eyesight literally starts to get into like this little, that's really high stress is
That's
whenever
scary.
I legit will, sometimes one of my eyes will just totally black out. Yeah, it's scary. That's when I call my boss and say, hey, I need to take a mental health day. And they go, yeah, we saw that coming. But I've been doing much better about taking care of myself before I get to that can't see place. And some of the things that I do to take care of myself, whenever I work a hard case, sometimes I'll call Haley and say, hey, I need to have some ice cream. And she goes, okay. That's how Haley knows that I maybe had a really tough case or something like that. Or just a hard day. It doesn't have to be after a case. But I'll be like, can we go eat ice cream tonight? She's like, of course we can. So we'll go have ice cream. That's the fast go-to. That's the fast... not a lot of work has to be put into that one. It just gets my endorphins going.
Yeah.
But some of the other things that I do is we play video games.
Yeah.
We just got this baseball video game, RBI 19, and it's the thing that we go and we play just one game, 9 innings against each other at the end of the day, especially lately because Haley's been really busy. And it's just fun.
Yeah.
I have a fun little dance when I beat Haley because...
Doesn't happen very often.
Oh, please. It happens all the time. We played last night and I hit 4 home runs with the Dodgers. So, in your face. Oh, man. So let's see. What are some of the other things that I do? We hang out with our dogs. I think that I have a cat who I got when I was in Texas because I was lonely and I needed affection and I needed something. And she is a little therapy cat, legit. The other day I needed to cry. I wasn't feeling well. My stomach was really hurting. And she came and hates our dogs. And she just recognizes that there's something wrong with me. And she'll come up and she just will be really cuddly and really affectionate. And I can't get her off of me.
Yeah.
And then when I'm feeling better, she's fine. And she doesn't want to have anything to do with me. But legit, like when I'm sad or when I don't feel well, she has a sixth sense about that.
Yeah. Well, it's just the energy you're giving off.
Yeah. But she's the only one that recognizes it.
Sure.
The dogs could give a crap
about me. Selfish.
About me feeling bad. And then Vega just wants attention just because he's this old man cat. And when he wants a pet, he wants a pet. But when he doesn't want a pet, he's going to let you know with those sharp claws.
I think sometimes the dogs are the stress. Just like in this episode,
oh yeah,
little Maddie Bear chews through your cable.
Oh man, yeah, you'll definitely, you're gonna hear that moment. I forgot that happened. Yeah, we're sitting here recording, and we have a new little puppy. Her name is Maddow, also Maddie, also Little Bear. She has a lot of names.
She's a pup,
but she's what, like 12 weeks old?
Yeah,
and she's adorable. She has the sharpest teeth in America.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting here and she just chews right through the microphone cord. Just severs it in half.
What a punk.
Yeah. And literally Becky and I are sitting across from each other and I just start laughing because I didn't know what else to do. And Haley and I, thankfully, we are hoarders.
We?
Mostly Haley.
No, we're like 3 minutes before we start a matinee in the show that we're doing, and Brandi calls with that panic squealed in her voice. I thought something major happened, and she just explains how Maddie chewed through the cable. And I was like, hey, look, I bet there's extra this kind of cable in this place, and there was.
Yeah. So it worked. But also, I'd like to point out that wasn't your cable. That was my cable.
Whatever.
So we're unknowingly very prepared.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so sometimes our dogs are the stress. I just recently was at a conference called Advocacy in Action, and I was reminded on the very last day by the keynote speaker. Her name is Laura Vander Noot-Lipsky. She's from the Trauma Stewardship Institute. She was wonderful. And she reminded me of a lot of things. She reminded me that we have no control over the external. All that we control is our internal. And that we sometimes have to just remind ourselves why we do what we do. Yeah. And for me, that in my job, it's why do I keep coming back? Why do I love advocacy so much? Why do I love being a prevention educator so much? And I remind myself that. And I have it written now on my mirror in my office so that when I leave my office, I'm reminding myself, especially if it's something that I am maybe not particularly looking forward to. I remind myself and it changes my attitude.
Yeah.
Legit, it changes my attitude like this, just reminding yourself why you do something.
It's cool.
Yeah. She also talked a lot about fitness and how fitness is really important, is an important part of self-care. And I recognize that. And now that it's summertime, it unintentionally gets a lot easier because I'm lazy in the winter. Like, I'll admit that. I'm not too prideful to admit that, over the winter I gained some LBs that needs to go.
I hate winter. It's cold and there's nothing to do when it's cold.
Yeah. So we did we did gain some lbs, and so hopefully by getting active now that it's warm outside and Maddie is going to be done with her stupid shots soon, we'll be able to start going places and doing lots of things out at the lake and walking.
Yeah.
You know, briskly. One of the things that Laura said was that we need to get our heart rate up and break a sweat for 30 minutes every day.
Cool.
She goes, get your heart rate up for 30 minutes and break a sweat every day. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. It's something that I just need to set my mind to.
Yeah.
Because I can do that and I want to do that.
Well, in the summertime, pretty much just go outside and there's your sweat.
But get your heart rate up for 30 minutes every day.
Sure.
And I want to make that commitment, and I'm putting it out there into the universe, because once you do that, there's a lot of people that, can be very shameful when they ask you.
They'll hold you accountable.
Yeah, unintentionally sometimes too, will hold you accountable. And I need that.
Yeah.
I do. I need that. So I'm going to say to you all, hold me accountable.
Prove it.
But Haley, what are some of the ways that you take care of yourself? What's your self-care?
I think just getting outside, and we like to play golf. And that's something that is a little bit stressful in its own. So it allows you to not worry about anything else in the outside world because you're thinking about your game, you know?
Yeah. But also taking the kayaks out, that's something that you look forward to. What other things?
I've recently delved into woodworking.
Yeah. Oh, that became a huge, huge part of your self-care.
Yeah.
Was woodworking.
Almost went into an obsession, but then things got busy again, so it was good.
Yeah. We have a lot of little things in our house now that Haley has made that are really, really great. I'm not saying that in an annoying kind of way.
Yeah.
They're really good stuff. And we gave a lot of gifts for Christmas that were your self-care, the products of your self-care.
It's cool though. Because then it's, here's some flower planters and stuff. So then that delves into some more just individual time of having all the media turned off and we're planting flowers and we're tending to them. Mm-hmm. You know, that's something that I think is healthy, and it's that nature, and my hands smell like dirt. And so it releases these endorphins, and if we start a garden and all of that goes with it, you know, so it's helpful. But it's cool to be in the shop because then you throw on a podcast and you just do what you do. You put your headphones in because the saws are loud and the vacuum's going. So it allows you to disconnect and just be there in that moment until you're able to complete something, which is really nice.
Well, and we have a new journey coming next semester of what your life is going to look like. And then in turn, it affects my life. Because this is all about Brandi. So do you want to tell people what you're doing next semester?
Sure. I mean, I'm just going to teach instead of not teach. I guess. I feel like I've been teaching anyway.
Sure. But you're actually going to be the person in charge.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. It's something that is exciting. On our first date, I remember asking Haley why she's not a teacher. And she was like, because I don't want to do it. I
don't want to go back to school. I still don't.
And I was like, that's weird. You will. Like, just hang out with me for a little while, and I'll encourage you. And 2 years later, here we are. She's ready to get her teaching degree.
It's time.
Is it time?
Yeah.
I know it's time. I'm just kidding. Oh, I do have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I remember that on our first date of me being like, but why? And you're like, I don't want to. Bleh.
I didn't want to.
I know.
2 years ago.
Oh, so here we are. I legit have like this kind of nasty smirk on my face. It's like, I knew you would always do this. Right? No?
Shaking my head right now.
And I'm excited for you. And legit, so, just to wrap up this conversation about self-care, your life is going to look a lot different. Right now, as the theater manager, you are, opening up for a church that rents out the theater every Sunday. So you open it up at 5:45 every Sunday, and you have to close that at whenever they finish, whatever time that means. And so that means no traveling.
Sure.
You don't get to go anywhere because of that. You don't get to ever go out of town. You don't get to ever go and see your niece's, dance recitals or productions, whatever, all because of a Sunday thing.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoons, you have rehearsals that run really late. And in the mornings, you have to get there to unlock the theater really early so that people can start the rehearsals. And I'm not saying that any of that, this is maybe I'm projecting right now. I will own that. But I just see how time intensive all of that is. And I think not ever being able to take a day off is the thing that gets to me the most.
Sure.
And I don't think that it gets to you as much as it gets to me.
I'd agree with that.
So having a weekend is something that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. It's cool. We just went through year 17 of Shindig, which is this huge choir concert that happens at Piedra Vista High School. And this year, Melissa Mortensen, she's the one that orchestrated it all, but she talked to a bunch of people, and they had over 100 alumni students that have gone through that choir program with Virginia Nichols on stage last night singing to her. And every single one of us in the booth had a little tear in our eye, and it was just inspiring that Miss Nichols touched that many lives, that she was a teacher to all of those students, and they were so happy to come back and share that moment with her. So that's that inspiration to be a teacher.
Yeah.
I hope I could be a good person that affects these students' lives in a
positive
good way. Yeah.
Sure.
And it was powerful to sit in that theater with 1,000 people in that audience last night. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that's the reward. That's that self-care of sitting back in whatever your time frame is and watching.
That's you reminding yourself why you do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And watching that video and seeing that and thinking about that.
Right.
Like, that's the cool part about being a teacher.
Yeah.
And the students and whatever that looks like,
Yeah. So we want to encourage you to recognize what your self-care is, or maybe we want to encourage you to recognize that you need self-care, that you need to take care of yourself, and that you have to take care of yourself for the longevity of your job, but also for the benefit and the care of your family.
Yeah.
One of the things that this speaker said, Laura, she reminded us that, we may not recognize when we need to take care of ourselves, but our family does. And one of the things she said was, you might be sitting here in front of me thinking, Laura, I am good, and there's nothing going wrong in my life. So to you, I want you to think, what would my family say if they were sitting right here? What would my family say are the things that stress me out? What would my family say if we asked if I was healthy or not? And then people have to look and go, how do people perceive me?
Yeah.
And so maybe that's something is you don't recognize that you need a little something, but other people do.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean that you need to go and tell that person. But it means that maybe that's inner reflection. We can't control the external, but we can control the internal.
Yeah.
So remind yourself why you do all of the things that you do and why you love what you do, and do a little self-care. And that might mean fitness. And today's guest talks a lot about how fitness is her self-care, how being out in nature is how she takes care of herself, and how why she's so healthy, not just physically, but also mentally today. Her name is Becky Johnson. She is someone who has been sharing her story for the last couple of years here in the Four Corners area. I've heard her speak at the Four Corners Indian Country Conference, and she told her story. That was the first time I ever heard her speak. And then now, just because of my job, I get to see her often in the community doing other things. But then also I've had the opportunity to go and share our services in the same space that she's telling her story. Just share with people what sexual assault services does for our community.
Yeah.
And I've been able to rub elbows with her, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful to be able to watch her live her life on Facebook. She talks about all of her fitness stuff on Facebook. She just ran the Shiprock Marathon yesterday.
Dang.
So
Cool.
Yeah, we recorded this on Friday. She ran the marathon on Saturday, and on all of the photos, they call it the struggle bus. Every time one of her teammates, I guess they put together a group of her friends. And every time one of them came in across the finish line, they took a photo, and it was like, I don't remember what the poster said, but it was pretty funny. Something about how the struggle bus is real or something.
How cute.
Yeah, and how excited they were that they finished the Shiprock Marathon, which BT Dub, if you're not from this area, that is a tough run.
Yeah.
So kudos to every single person who puts in the effort to make that happen for themselves, because that's a huge accomplishment, and you deserve all of the congratulations. Yep. So well done to the folks who ran that Shiprock Marathon yesterday. So take a listen to Becky's story. Just want to give a heads up. There is some explicit language in this episode. So if you have littles that you don't necessarily want them to hear that, then, just be aware that that's going to happen. This is a real story. She's a real human. And we never, ever, ever want to censor a person. We won't do that. But we do want to let you know, just in case you are listening with somebody who, might be sensitive to that. You are aware. So in the meantime, take a listen. Here's Becky's story.
Change the world. She's going to change the world. She's going to change the world. But she can't.
Welcome to another episode of Small Town Expectations. I'm here with my new friend, and I'm excited to call her my friend. This is Becky Johnson.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Becky, I would love for you to just share with our listeners how you introduce yourself in a cultural setting.
So I'm originally from Shiprock, New Mexico. I am part Navajo and part Ojibwe. So Oze Tachi Nishla Tohana Bashishchi Nakaidene Shache Red Lake Ojibwe Shanale.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I love that. I don't know why. I always talk to Rachel and Shannon about how I would love to be able to look back and go, here's who my grandma is. Here's who my maternal grandma and my paternal grandma and all those things. And I just have never done that research. It's something I really want to do.
Yeah.
Because I admire that.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
So we have been talking about you being on this podcast for a while, and part of it is because you do this really cool thing every year. I think you just did your second annual run.
It's the fourth annual. This year was fourth annual.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
okay. Sorry. So fourth annual run. And we're going to get into kind of what that run represents in a little bit, but we've been talking about you being on this podcast for a while. And so I'm just stoked for you to finally be here in my home, hanging out with me and my pups while they're, rolling around on the ground like crazy heads. So you might hear the dogs in the background just in case you're wondering what those little yelps are. They're playing. But Becky, I would love for you to just start off with sharing a little bit about what your childhood was like.
So my childhood was good. My mom was a single mom, so she had to work and then she was going to school at the same time. So my sister and I spent a lot of time with our babysitter, who turned into what we call our mom, Her name was Bessie, and that's pretty much who I think I can say I grew up with. And it was just because my mom, had other things to do to help raise me and my sister alone. Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate enough to have somebody there to fill that role model as a mom. And she taught us, everything from how to respect ourselves, how to cook, how to clean. She just had a big heart. And I think that's where a lot of what I have inside comes from. Me and my sister, if somebody comes to visit us, we're over there trying to cook something and feed them.
Yeah.
If somebody needs help, we do our best to try and help. Because my mom Bessie, she didn't have much, but I always remember seeing her, opening her home and feeding people and giving them stuff if they need it, if they need help with something. She didn't have much, but she was open. And so that's how me and my sister are. I don't have any expectations when I help, and so does my sister's the same way. If I give something away, they can do whatever they want with it. And
it's a gift.
Yeah. So when I see people sharing that they help somebody and then later they're mad because that person sold it or something and they get all mad about it, I'm like, why are you getting mad about it?
Yeah, I
You
think
know?
the same thing oftentimes. Like, that you gave that to them, so shouldn't they be able to do whatever they want with it?
Yeah, that's just me, and that's like something that I just think, oh my God, how can you do that? How can you say, oh, I give, but then you have expectations on it,
Right.
But I guess not everybody's like me and you would be,
Right.
But yeah, so that was my childhood. I just lived in Shiprock. Had many people fill in as a role model for me as a mom. My best friend's mom was the same way. Her and her family, they took, when I didn't have somewhere to go right away, I was always welcome at their house.
Mm-hmm.
They took care of me, and yeah, it was pretty good.
And so all of this, how old were you when all of this was kind of happening?
Just from birth till I left home.
Okay.
So
really, like, all of your kind of adolescence, this is
Yeah.
how you were being raised and what you were being taught.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What? How far apart are you and your sister?
I think we're 5 years apart.
Okay.
I think we're 5 or 4.
And you're older than her, right?
No, she's older than me.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. So you just posted some photos on Facebook, kind of older photos, and I was thinking you were the older one. So you guys look, I mean, like,
Yeah.
super, super almost identical.
Yeah, she was she was smaller than I was, and she always looked younger. It was so funny because one time when she was pregnant, we went to go eat at a restaurant, but they had the all-you-can-eat breakfast thing, and the waitress was like gonna give her the child's price, and there she is. She's like all pregnant. we always laugh about that. But yeah, she's
That's awkward.
She's old. She's older than me, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and she's 5 years older than you.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got really, when we were growing up, it was just always her and I. My mom, Bessie, she had older kids as well. One girl and then 2 boys. So we call them our brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I was like 11, 10, maybe 10, my sister Lisa passed away. And I think her passing is what kind of bonded us really strong together.
Yeah.
And we grew. So from that day on, we always just kind of stuck together. And of course, she's older than me. I still did things with her and ran with her friends. And I just always fit in, and everybody always thought I was older.
Yeah. How did your family handle the trauma of losing your sister?
It was pretty rough. Like, I want to say our family kind of slowly grew apart.
Yeah.
But her and I, we stuck.
You've had each
stuck
other.
together, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tough. My sister and I, we lost our dad when we were really little, and we both handled it much differently. And we still to this day, have handled that much differently. But as adults, it's the thing that really has brought us together too. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really, it's interesting to see how families navigate that trauma and navigate just that loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missing person.
Yeah. So, because it's exactly what it is. Somebody's missing from your life, and that's hard.
Yeah.
So, what was it like being a teenager growing up in Shiprock? Right, is where you grew up.
Yeah.
So, what was that like?
It was fine. I spent a lot of time playing like softball and basketball.
Oh, okay.
It was just typical, you'd leave home in the morning and come home at night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played a lot of softball, and so my weekends and during the summer especially, we would go play in different tournaments. I'd have friends that would come pick me up early in the morning. We'd be gone all day and come back really late, and then have to be out again early the next day and to finish up our tournaments and stuff. And we'd play all over the place. But yeah,
I bet we played softball against each other.
maybe.
Yeah, because I think we're the same age.
I'm 40. I think I'm 41.
Oh no, you're not.
So
I did not think you were that old.
yeah,
we didn't
old.
play softball against
I'm an old lady.
I'm 34.
Oh, okay.
But I was thinking that you and I were the same age. I don't know why. I just always thought that.
No, I'm old.
But you don't look like you're 41.
Are we back?
We are back. So technical difficulties. This is what happens when you have a little tiny puppy who has no boundaries at all. So we were talking about playing softball, right? Being athletic and playing sports. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally lost it.
I know, me too. I'm so sorry. So what was it like? You were talking about your childhood and being in junior high, things like that. What kind of adventures did you go on?
I didn't go on too many. I mean, we just if it was summer, we just played outside, and I took off with my friends and hung out a lot with my friends.
Yeah. Cool. So there was something, there's something very significant that happens in your life that kind of has taken you on this journey that you are on now. And it was super traumatic. And it's the thing that you really kind of fight against every single day as adult Becky. What was that experience, and let's talk about that journey that you were on in that time period and where you've come now.
Okay. So when I was 13, it was in the summer months, June, I can't remember the specific date, but in June of 1991, I was sexually assaulted. Well, I guess I was raped. I think sexually assaulted is like a kind word, but for what happened to me, I just call it what it is, and that's rape.
Yeah.
And I know that horrifies people, but for me, saying it just kind of is something that shows you can talk about it.
Right.
It's not a scary word. It's not a bad word. It's something that's a part of a lot of people's lives. I always thought it was just only me that went through it, and I couldn't say that word for a long time, but now it is what it is,
Yeah.
And I I can't say how much that day changed my life.
Right.
The day that happened, that morning, I had actually spent the day playing at a tournament, and I had been brought back, and then that's when that happened. And after that day, 13-year-old Becky died. I no longer really played in tournaments. I never went out anymore. I actually turned to, I guess, the negative side, and that was just spending a lot of time away from everybody and everything, and doing a lot of drinking with people I felt safe with, that I called my friends. It wasn't a good coping way, but that's the way I coped.
Yeah. Your childhood was over.
Yeah.
Yeah, you literally went from being this child who is having fun and playing softball and playing basketball, hanging out with your sister and, just kind of experiencing life, to this person who is just trying to figure out the world.
Yeah.
And those are two very drastic changes.
Yeah.
Right? And scary.
Yeah, it was hard. I think I spent a lot of time just thinking about everything that happened, and so that's where I lost everything. I think when I finally realized what the effects were on me was maybe 2 years ago. I sat thinking about like how I felt as an adult, and I didn't feel like an adult. I always felt like I was just a little girl. But once I came to this realization, I was like, okay, I'm actually an adult, but I'm stuck here.
When do you think that happened? How old do you think you were?
When I realized that?
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, so 39.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So I just don't think I ever really, I think I stopped everything there, and then I went into this safe mode, and that's where I just focused on just being drunk all the time. Thankfully, I never got into drugs. I look at that and I'm like, that's one of the things I'm very thankful for, is I never did drugs. I see so many of my friends that are suffering to addiction of drugs, and they're in like bad place. I've had many die from their drug abuse, and so I'm so thankful. But yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it was about 2 years ago that you really started telling your story. And that's what has brought you into this place of being able to recognize, like, you're an adult and you are a functioning, healthy human. But what was it like? What are some of the things that you worked through on this journey to that time?
Okay. So after that happened, I left my home maybe when I was 16, 17, somewhere in between there. I moved out and I just started living. I had dropped out of high school and I was just kind of floating, I guess. But it took me finishing high school. I returned and I finished, and then I still had not dealt with any of the trauma. I didn't, everything happened and I was just kind of, I don't know, just functioning at a level that probably wasn't healthy. But what I think was a turning point was me leaving this area and moving to Phoenix and just kind of starting my life there.
Yeah.
I still never really dealt with it. So I still had my ups and downs, but I didn't have that constant memory that I have here. Because every day I live with this memory when I live here.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I get all this anxiety and I get this like, I love this place, but I hate it.
Right.
But when I lived in Phoenix, I could just live and I didn't have so much fear. I always had flashbacks. I had triggers that reminded me of what happened to me. And it was something I just had to learn how to deal with. If I had a nightmare or if I had a flashback, I'd be down for days. And those were probably the days I used alcohol the most.
Yeah.
So when I took the steps to help myself, it was going to see a counselor. And
In Phoenix,
yeah,
right?
it was in Phoenix. And it was going to be, so before I had been given the chance to go get counseling. It was after a suicide attempt. I was told, you're going to start going to counseling, but I was already in a place where I felt like nobody really cared. They're only trying to make me now because of what I just did. And the lady that came to be the counselor was so cheesy that I was like, yeah, whatever. I was a rebellious teen. So, I didn't want to hear what she had to say because I felt like she didn't know what I went through. And she had no place to tell me how I'm supposed to get over it. So I stopped going. But when I made the decision to go on my own, it was because I was at a place in my life where I thought, how do I figure out what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy? And mind you, I was like on different kind of medications to help with depression, with anxiety. I had stuff to wake me up in the morning and to put me to sleep at night. And I had medications for in between. So when I started going to this counselor, she was nice and she helped me to get talking. And she, one of the best things she ever told me was, it was fucked up what happened to me. Sorry about my language,
No,
but
it's okay. It's okay.
But she told me that. And I was like, okay, she speaks my talk. And so she helped me work through things and she showed me different ways to cope. I could no longer go to her because I used up all my time with my employee assistant. So I had to wait for a period of time. And then when I went back again, I had to start all over with somebody new. But I mean, from them, it's like we just picked off from where we left off.
Yeah.
And so even though it was a different person, I was able to do a little bit more learning about myself.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned, I'm not alone, where all this time I always felt like I was alone. I didn't know there was other people that were going through the same thing as I went through. So I didn't go anymore, and I just started kind of moving on with my life, and I ended up having a little boy, and, that was like one of the main things where I was like, okay, I got to be healthy. And I just started trying to figure out how I could heal from all of this. Fast forward, I moved back here I think it was in 2010, I moved back to Farmington area, and I had to relearn to live here. And the first encounters I had with the perpetrator, had me down. It was like, oh, how am I supposed to do this? It was rough. It was rough running into him, just having that fear again, having all these nightmares and having it all come back. That I think that is what made me think, how do I get back who I am, and how do I get back my life here in this town?
Yeah.
So I read a lot of books, and a lot of the books I read are from other survivors. I like reading those kind of books, and they inspire me, and they kind of help me fix what I'm feeling. So that's when I decided I'm going to share my story, and I'm going to tell the world.
It's cool.
And so I did the little YouTube video using flashcards, because I had seen so many using that method then. So one night I just put my son to sleep, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. I turned off the heater so it wouldn't, like, the sounds of the heater won't mess up the recording. And I just got my little digital camera that has that recording feature, and I just like hooked it up, and I wrote out my little note cards, and then I had to decide what music I'm going to use for the background. And so I had to set up the camera, and then I started going through the slideshow. I mean, just going each slide, and I was like, how long am I supposed to leave them? Is it going to be too long? Is it going to be too short? Can they not read it? So it was like a learning experience, and I had to sit there and I watched it, and I was like, okay, I didn't get through this slide, so I'd have to go back and re-record. And once I got done, then I got on the computer, and I have no idea how to use computer, like do videos
Edit it or something like that.
So I think I just Googled video editing or something. And so the first app that came up, I clicked on it, and I just imported the slides, and then I figured out what music I wanted, and then I had to learn how to put that in. And then it was like too short. Okay, so I need to add some more here. And so that's how I built it. And then once I was done, I watched it, and I was like, okay, I guess that's as good as it's going to get. So I went ahead and uploaded it, and that was like 2 a.m. And I think I was afraid to hit that send button to have it uploaded on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I did it, and it took forever because my internet's slow. So I got it up. It finally downloaded, and it was there. And then I had to decide, am I going to really do this and put it on Facebook? And I sat on it for like maybe another 30 minutes, and I was like, oh, screw it. So I just I don't even think I wrote anything. I can't remember, but I don't even think I wrote anything. And I just uploaded it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I hit send, and I turned it off, and I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning, and I was so scared to get up and look at my Facebook. So I think I waited until maybe like in the afternoon when I finally got the courage to open up my Facebook.
And what were people's reactions?
There was just like a whole lot. Like there was a lot of likes, a lot of hearts, a lot of everything, and there was comments of people saying, I didn't know, you're so strong, and it was so hard for me to take that in because I don't feel like I'm a strong person. I felt like I was just sharing something that happened to me that nobody really knew about. And it was scary. So I didn't feel strong, but I had to take it in, and I thought, okay, there was no negative reaction. So that's always the plus.
Right.
And then I think that first time maybe is the first time a few days later I got a first inbox because so many people shared it. And I got a first inbox from just some random person that says, I'm so proud of you. That happened to me. And they shared their story. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this now? And from there, I just, I think my response was, thank you, and I'm proud of you too, or whatever. I was trying to think of how I'm supposed to respond.
Right. What do you say?
Yeah. Because I mean, she's trusting me with something that she's never told anybody.
Right.
But after that, slowly some of my other friends have shared with me over the times, and told me their story. And I think about them a lot because they're some of the people I ran with when we were younger. And we did a lot of heavy drinking together, and we did crazy things, and we were like the best of friends. And even though we got in trouble, we were the misunderstood ones.
Yeah.
Because I was labeled a bad person in school. I had administrators say really shitty things to me. But they didn't understand. They didn't know what I was going through.
Yeah.
And I can say the same for my other friends because they too acted the same way.
And you didn't know that about them. And they didn't know that about you.
No. So we laugh about it and we tell each
Yeah.
other, like, damn, this thing, if we had talked about it then, we could have helped each other. Maybe
Yeah.
things would have been a little bit different.
Yeah, I think so. But it's one of those things that, man, rape is just something that we, as a culture and as a society, are so, it's something we just don't talk about, right? And that's what you're trying to change, is by saying, here's my story, you're not alone, and encouraging people to talk about it and to know that you have a voice, and that silence, silence isn't what they have to do, isn't anything that anybody has to do.
Yeah, I think the thing that was the hardest for me to get to was knowing that it wasn't my shame to carry and that it's only his. Because for so long, I was ashamed of what happened to me. When I was in junior high going into high school. So high school boys and girls, they're childish and they make fun of, blowjobs and sex and stuff like that. And they call girls whores if they do those things. So I'm like, oh my God, that's what happened to me. And there's like, one of the big things that bothered me was I was a virgin. And so when this guy did that to me and he found out, he realized I was a virgin. He's like, oh, I popped your cherry. So popping your cherry is big for me. Like that takes me back.
When people say that?
Yeah. To this day, it just like, I'll just flash back to that.
Yeah.
That's the thing I remember. So it was hard to be around my high school friends after. And so that's why I hung out with older guys and my sister, and because they never joked about it. They knew what happened to me. And so they always watched what they said, or they just never talked like that. So I always felt at ease with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the hard part in growing up. And that's where I want people to see. I really want to go towards the high school kids because I think if I can talk to them and show them now that if they ever found themselves in that position, or if they're living that life right now, that talking about it's going to help heal them faster. They're going to hopefully bounce back and recover a lot faster than I did.
Yeah.
Because when I can probably honestly say I felt the best was probably until my late 30s. And now I'm 41, going on 42, and I'm like even more better. Like I every day I'm better, but I know I'll never be 100%.
Sure.
And accepting that was huge for me. And so when I hear people talk, I can always spot out the people who have never experienced it versus the people who have, because the ones that haven't experienced it kind of tell a fairy tale ending to, if you get counseling, this is going to happen. If you do this, your life is going to be 100% perfect.
Sure.
But for me, I tell it the truth, and that's, we're never going to be 100%, but we're going to be pretty dang close to it. And it's going to be a lifelong thing. Nothing's ever going to make it go away, and you're always going to have triggers. But the good thing is, when you get those flashbacks, when you get those triggers, if you have that counseling behind you, you know how to deal with it so it doesn't hold you down.
Yeah.
Because like I said before, I could be triggered and I could carry that heaviness, and it would lead me to just being either hiding in my bed, not wanting to live, and just hide from everybody for days, to, oh, I got 1 hour after. Yeah, that 1 hour I feel heavy and I feel really mad, angry, whatever. But then I think about all the positives, and that's something they taught me in the counseling sessions, and I just bounce back, and then I'm okay. Are there some days harder than others? Sure. I mean, I'm not going to say it's only an hour all the time. There are days that I'll find myself thinking, and then what do you know? I'm finding myself sleeping a lot more.
Right.
And so I'm like, I have to try and figure out how to kick myself out of that mode. And that's where my exercising kicks in. If I can push myself to go out and exercise, then the next day won't be so hard, and the next day won't be harder, and then next, I'm back, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you've said so many things that I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And one of those things is perspective, right? We walk around having this idea that I think that folks, especially where we live in a very conservative place, and folks have this idea that they know what you experienced and they understand it. And you're like, no, like this was my experience, right? And until they, and I think that there's people who are really close to you and love you and know who you are, all of those things, that understand it on a different level, right? And so what I have been having a lot of conversations around is perspective. Whenever you know somebody who's personally experienced this, or you yourself have personally experienced this, perspective changes a lot. And for you, once you found out that your friends experienced the same thing, that perspective changed, right? Yeah. And now you guys are able to talk about it and even kind of joke about it and laugh about it. But it's the students in high school who are saying things that aren't okay, that can absolutely trigger somebody to something that they experienced. And it's about that perspective, right? It goes back to that. And it goes back to you using your voice and really just sharing this with people and encouraging other people to share that voice too. But something I really admire about you is that, and even though, it's taken you on this journey of realizing your dark days and realizing those days where you got to get out and you need to run, you're able to sit back and recognize that. I experienced some of the same stuff when I was about 30. I found myself in a really dark place and, sleeping a lot, not wanting to be around people. And I experienced sexual assault when I was 18 and 20, and then I was in a really abusive relationship. And I recognized, and I never dealt with it. And I recognized that when I was 30, that's how I was functioning, and that's not okay, right? And so then you're like, something has to change, and what is that going to be? And that was my cue to go, Brandi, you're not okay, do something, and I think that everybody has to have that moment where they go, I'm not okay, I'm gonna do something. And for you, that's exercise, and that's your fitness and your running and all of those things. I would love for you to share some of that, just some of that experience and some of that story
on my fitness thing.
Yes, because this is big.
Yeah, so I never was active. Like, all I did was drink and go to work and eat. I love food.
Me too.
So I was like pretty heavy. Like, I was a big girl, and I never really realized how heavy I was. And like I said, I was like on all these medications, and I had also medications for like high blood pressure. I was having I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And so, like, a lot of times I was just on pain pills and I would just be sleeping. And so I was just getting really large. Well, I got this job with the Farmington Police Department as a records clerk first. And then I saw that they were opening up positions for a community service officer. So ever since I was younger, I've always wanted to be a police officer. But like my mom would tell me, the job, the money and the jobs are in medical field. So I kind of went to school for, I did an EMT position before I got certified. And then from there I went to doing x-ray technician for school. I finished it, did my externship. I hated it. So I never even did nothing with it. But
you know how to take an x-ray.
But I like but I ended up like falling back, and I got hired on as a dispatcher down in Arizona for a little Indian community. And so I was like, man, I love this, but I want to be a cop. But then I got into some trouble, so that ended. And so when I came back here and I started with the police department, I loved it. I was like, this is great. Yeah. So when that community service officer position came open, I was like, oh, maybe I'll try it. And I have really low self-esteem of myself, but I put in the application and I went and I did the written test. And it was so funny because like I had so much self-doubt that when I finished the written test, I came back and I was just sitting at work and I started getting nervous, and I called the recruiter at Human Resources. I was like, just pull my application. She's like, no, Becky, just keep it in. And I was like, no, I don't think I did good on that test. I don't even want to be told I failed it or whatever. That's going to be embarrassing. Just pull my application. And she's like, no, Becky, I'm not going to pull it. And I was like, just pull it. And we went back and forth. And then she's like, I'm not pulling it. We're staying with what it is. And I always think about her, you know,
thank goodness you have these people in your life, girl.
And I didn't even, like, she didn't know me and I didn't know her, but she was just, like, so encouraging. And for whatever reason, she didn't want me to pull it. So then she calls me, like, 2 days later and she's like, hey, you passed it. So we're giving you an offer. Did you want the job? And I'm like, oh, shit. You know? And I was like, yeah, okay. Okay. And then I was all afraid to tell my supervisor that I was going to leave. So I just kind of left it. And I continued working. And then finally, I had to tell, you know, I accepted this job with the community service officers department. And so they give me my start date, and they were going to try and do something different to where they were going to have like a mini academy. So they said, we're going to wait till we hire more CSOs, but we're going to go ahead and have you, go with the cadets that are going to the police academy. And I was like, oh, okay. And so at that time it was just one girl, and then I got thrown in with her, and she was like, gosh, she was super young. She's like in her 20s, physically fit, you know, and here I am, 289 pounds, never exercised, never did anything. And so they just threw me in with her, and they would PT us all the time, and I couldn't.
What does PTS stand for?
Like exercise.
Oh, okay.
So they would make us exercise.
Okay.
And they would make us do like CrossFit stuff, run, do a lot of running, and I couldn't run. Like I don't know how many days I went home just sore and crying, and like, what did I just get myself into? And you know, I probably can't do this. But she was always a good person. That girl, she was like so encouraging. Like she'd finish her workout and then she'd come back and she'd finish with me. So she would always push me. And for me, seeing her having to come back, I felt really embarrassed, but then she was like running with me. So then that encouraged me to not stop running, not stop trying, because then it'd be embarrassing for me even more. So I just stuck it out. And before you know it, you know, after I'd get home from work, I go take off and go run. And then I started seeing like my weight drop and things were looking better. I started working on my, working on eating right, because she would share with me like what she eats, how she eats things. And so I was like, okay, I like this. And it just got better. So one thing I realized at the same time was, after running, I just felt great. Like I was happy. Like if there was something bothering me, it would just the running would just make it feel better. Like I was like, okay, I can get through this.
Yeah.
And so it just became habit. Every now and then I'll fall off, you know, I'll go back to being lazy and stuff, but then I always find that way to get back on, because it makes me feel good. I can't explain how great it feels. I call it my free therapy.
Yeah.
And so I started out at 289. The lowest I dropped was 189.
That's
amazing.
So
I was like, 100 pounds. I was so happy. And I'm trying to get down to 150. So I was like, it's not that far. But it was like 2 years ago, maybe even 3, I can't remember, 2 or 3 years ago, I was like just flying high. You know, I lost all this weight. I was in shape, and I was back in school, and I was finishing up a good semester. And I said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to go find this police report. I'm ready to go find the peacemaking paperwork. And I'm going to find a way to use that in my presentations when I go out and speak. I want to know everything that's on there. And I thought that would be a good thing for me. So one day I just spent my day driving to Winter Rock, and I found my police report, and I was able to find the peacemaking paperwork. And it took like a whole day. I finally got brave and I read it, and that sent me downhill. Like, I totally cut off. I stopped running. I stopped exercising. And then my weight went back up. And I was just like in a bad place, and I didn't know how to get out of it, because everything that was written in those papers really, really sent me down. It spiraled me down. It brought back all the anger that I thought I got rid of. And it just like, yeah, it was bad. But today I'm better, and I'm thankful I did that and I worked through it.
Good.
As much as it was hard and scary for me, it helped me to build more stepping stones in my ability to go out and share and just, I guess, heal that one part that's was hurting still.
Well, because the judicial system is supposed to work for you.
Yeah.
And it seemed like maybe they were trying, but it didn't. And it's, I don't know.
It was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So like, it was just how things played then.
I think it still happens though.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
You think so?
I think it's a lot better. The resources people have, the more they're talking about it and the more the issue is getting brought up, I think police departments are trying to improve.
Yeah.
I don't really know if things are way better on the reservation. I just had a person let me know their story, and it sounds pretty similar to what I went through. I don't know her specific details, but I mean, I read her post and I was like, those mother effers, you know?
Yeah.
And it just like, it's frustrating, but I think I see a little bit of change and
That's
things
good.
getting a little better. I can only pray and hope. That's like one of the other things when I do these presentations. If I have like law enforcement or service personnel on, I let them know, you know, this is the paperwork that I found on my police report. What's here doesn't match up to all the trauma, the re-traumatization you guys gave me. And 30 years later, this piece of shit paperwork that's called a report hurt me again. If the law enforcement officers did what they should have done from the start, maybe it wouldn't have hurt so much.
Right.
But I share that with them in hopes that they see how their report writing affects a victim.
Yeah. And your experience is different than maybe somebody who experiences a rape in Farmington as opposed to experiencing it on tribal land, right? Because they're going to be prosecuted in the area that the crime happened. And so for you, this happened on tribal land. And so you mentioned peacekeeping. What is peacekeeping? And
So peacemaking.
oh my gosh,
yeah,
peacemaking.
no worries.
I'm sorry. No, I know what that is. I sound like a dummy, but yes.
No. Peacemaking court, I think it's more designed towards, like, I don't know, maybe like where families are fighting amongst each other or whatever. But with my thing, I think the reason why it went that way was just a solution for the moment because I had just come from trying to kill myself. I was way angrier. I was disappearing a whole lot more from home. I wanted nothing to do with my family. I was just angry, and I didn't want nothing more. And when his family came to talk to my mom, they wanted to see if they could just settle it traditionally.
Yeah.
So that he could be taken off from a federal warrant and he could move back here. Because he was gone for a couple of years. I want to say 4 years. Since the night that the attack happened, they couldn't find him until that time when we got it all squared away with court.
Yeah.
He was gone. But we decided, my mom asked me about it, and me being just, in the place I was like, I don't care.
Just wanted it over with.
I just don't want to deal with this.
Right.
Because that was like my senior year. I had just tried to kill myself, and the day we had to go meet with the federal prosecutors was actually the day of what would have been my high school graduation. But I had dropped out just like a couple months before, maybe 2 months before, because all of this popped up.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't deal with it. So that's why it went that way with peacemaking.
Right.
I never really knew what the whole terms of the paperwork were.
Yeah.
Until just a few years ago. I kind of knew there was money and stuff that was supposed to be paid, but I didn't know exactly how much.
Sure.
And it was when I read it, like I was so mad at when I read it. And then there are things my mom never really shared with me.
Yeah.
That I found out when I went looking for this paperwork. I saw that after all this happened, he didn't make the payments like he was supposed to, because I think he had like a 1 year or 2 year term to finish it. And so we were hitting 4 years, and he still hadn't fulfilled his part on it. And I guess in between those times, he started to say, I don't need to pay nothing. I didn't do it. And then his mom and their family started harassing my mom at her business, started trying to get her in trouble. And I had no idea. So me looking for that paperwork also showed me all these different documents that were written and where my mom had to defend herself.
Yeah.
And I think that pissed me off. But it also opened my eyes to seeing that it didn't just happen to me. It happened to my whole family.
Yeah.
Around that time too, my sister actually got to go with me when I got invited up to Fort Duchesne, Utah, to do to speak at their little conference up there. We had that drive together, and we got to spend time. And after, on our way back, we were able to talk about what happened, and we never really talk about it. And I learned so much from my sister about how she was blamed for it, how people made her feel like it was her fault in some ways. I ruined her high school graduation because her graduation party was dampened because of what happened to me. We had it, but it wasn't what it probably should have been. So everything that happened at that time, helped me realize, okay, I need to not be angry with anybody else. I need to apologize to my family because all this time I was being selfish and thinking it was only me. But my reality now is how much hurt I caused my mom. And I know she's living with a lot of guilt. And I always am afraid for her when she comes to hear me talk because I don't want her to feel guilty.
Yeah.
We did the best we could as a family, and she did the best she could as a mom. And I can't imagine being a mom to somebody like I was and just having so much worry and wondering, is she coming home tonight? Is she hurt out there? Is she going to die? I'm sure that's what my mom lived with. So I'm at a point where I'm trying to correct it And I know sharing my story isn't only hurting me and healing me, but it may be also hurting my family.
Yeah.
But hopefully it heals them in their way. And I really hope one day we can all maybe go to counseling together and try and correct all of the feelings we all are carrying.
Sure.
Because I don't want my mom living with any guilt.
Yeah.
I don't blame her for none of this. What we did was the best we could do, and it was shitty, and the outcome was shitty at the time, but I'm fine now. And the best thing that's freeing is sharing.
Yeah.
And just accepting what's in the past.
Well, you know, and you've come so far. You've worked on yourself a lot, and you lost 100 pounds. Holy crap, lady. It's like a whole human. And I think that when our family members, or when just people who we're really close to see us working so hard to help ourselves, that communicates that you are okay, and it communicates that we are okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I don't even know who your family is, but I think that you're getting out, you're using your voice, you're encouraging young people, saying you're not alone. This is what happened to me. This is what I experienced. You're not alone in this. Let's support each other. Let's use our voices together. You know, you're fit. You're amazing at your job. I think you love your job.
Yeah.
From what I understand, you really love your job. And all of those things, I hope that your family looks in and goes, yeah, like this was shitty, but Becky's okay. And we got through this, and we're going to keep on moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you are in a position where you get to use your voice in a very powerful way for young people, and just a generation of people, right? 1 in 2 Native women will experience sexual violence in their lifetime. Yeah. And you get to say, this is something that I experienced. Let's support each other. That's huge, Becky. That's not to put any pressure on you or anything like that, but it's something to really be admired for. And I do admire you for that. And I think that what you're doing is really good work. And I don't know, I just appreciate you being vulnerable. I say this all the time on my podcast, that people get vulnerable, but it's true. I mean, you made a YouTube video, and I tried to find it because I wanted to see how many views it had, but I wasn't searching the right words, I don't think.
No,
Let's see how many hits it has, because...
So they always shut it down and start it up, so just take that out.
Okay.
Take it all the way out.
Oh, all the way? Okay.
Yeah. And then BJ, Beajay.
Just go?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think it's that one.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing.
And then that one.
Cool. So it has 399 views.
So
and it's been taken down and put back up.
So it's like off and on. And then I have it on Venmo, but I don't know how many hits are on that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they always take it down. And
why do they take it down?
Well,
what do they
say because
about
of the
it?
music.
Oh, because it's not copyright.
Yeah. So like it's so weird because they'll take it down, and then I'll check it like a month or 2 later, and it'll be back up.
Yeah.
And then they'll take it down. So I don't know what the true numbers are. But yeah, I've had people share it.
It's safe to say it's in the thousands.
Maybe. I think the one I did with Ike, just that one is like over 1,000.
That was the one that we had up. Becky's story. That one has 2,100 views.
Yeah. I'm always trying to get people to share it.
Seriously.
Like share both of them. I usually send the Venmo link because that one they never shut off.
Okay.
The YouTube one, it'll just get cut off out of nowhere. When it's getting too many hits, then they'll take it down.
Yeah.
But on Venmo it doesn't. But I always try and get people to share. But I think the topic of sexual assault makes people not want to share it. I mean, you see the dumb videos and like how people are like being funny and stuff, and those get
taking
tons.
A spoonful of cinnamon gets a million hits, and you're like, how did you just get paid to take a spoonful of cinnamon?
Yeah,
like, right? Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Some of my friends, like most of my friends don't share my video. Some do, but it's like very rare. And I don't get offended. Like it is what it is. But when I see other people taking it, like when I get notifications, like it's being hit on and stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And that's like I always tell people, share my video. It doesn't hurt. You can share my video. And then like, I'm always throwing my name out there. Call me if you want me to come talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, we're going to share the IHS one. IHS kind of scooped you up and said, we want to walk alongside you in this journey, right? And so they there's posters all over the place with your face on them, out in just a beautiful landscape. And that's how you have gone on this journey of healing, really, is by being in nature, by finding fitness, loving your job, using your voice, all of those things. And I think that's also something that, is really admirable too.
Yeah, I love hiking. I'm so glad it's warming up,
Me too.
I actually was thinking about going to hit somewhere this weekend, but then things are popping up. So I'm like, oh, I can't make it this weekend. But next weekend I'll be running up in Zion, doing a Ragnar. So I'll get to be out there in the mountains again. And then I plan to hike Angel's Landing on Sunday before heading home. And then I kind of want to go hit Sandia the next weekend on Friday or Thursday or Friday, go hike up Sandia. I was told there's mountain lion spottings and stuff, and I'm like, oh well. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go.
I guess, right?
But yeah, I plan to do a lot more running going up towards Ice Lake. You know how tough the switchbacks are.
Is that near the Platte or near Silverton?
No, near Silverton.
Okay.
Silverton. But I want to run that more. I'm gonna prepare to run another 50K the end of this year, so that will help with my training, and I'm hoping to finish that 50K in at least 8.5, because last year it took me a little over 10
days, right?
Hours?
No, just kidding.
Days. 10 hours.
A 50K. Okay, so a 5K is like 3 miles. How long is a 50K?
32.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
That is like totally out of my perspective of understanding.
Yeah, I like it. I really like running those and the longer runs because I can be by myself. I don't mind running with people, but I always feel like they have to talk to me, and then I feel like I have to run at their pace, or maybe they think I'm running too slow or whatever. So I'd rather just run by myself.
Yeah, that's okay.
Last year, that 50K, I just pushed out. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. My friend was signing up to run, I think, a 10K. And then I was like, okay, I'll go with you. I'm going to sign up for the 10K. The 50K, though, are you going to wait for me? And she's like, yeah, are you sure? And this was like on a Tuesday. And I said, well, if I can get somebody to sponsor me, I'll run. And she's like, all right. And so I made this thing and I put it on, I think I put it on Facebook and Instagram. But I had this sign and I said, help me pop my 50K cherry. I need money. I work, but I don't make enough or something. And I made this big old sign. And I was like standing along the highway by my house, and I had one person stop and he gave me like $10. And I was like, yeah. But then it started raining, so I had to go back in. And that's why I was like, okay, I'm just going to put it on Instagram or Facebook. And like my friends were laughing and they thought it was a joke. But on a Wednesday, I was eating lunch at work, and my messenger went off, and it was this guy. His name's Dirk, and I had met him doing a podcast with the suicide group, and he shared his story. So that's where I got to know him from. And he has a running group called Red Earth Running Company. And so he messaged me and he's like, hey, Becky, we want to help you with your journey. So onto a 50K, we'll sponsor you on your 50K.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh shit, and like, okay. And so then he's like, send me your information for your login for the ultra site. And then I gave them the codes and stuff. And so next, I got the email.
That is so
you're registered.
neat.
So I was like, oh my God, it's happening. So I text my friend. I was like, so it's happening. I'm running the 50K. She's like, what? You didn't even train? I was like, we'll see. And I had spent all summer, hiking. I was just hitting the trails every weekend, and I was running short miles, not too long of miles. But I had been wanting to run an ultra for a few years, and I kept putting it off. And so that was my jump in, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. All I knew it was a trail run in Navajo Mountain, and it was a tough one. But I also did a lot of thinking and praying, and at the time, I was dealing with that whole the paperwork still, and I just let it go that weekend. That's like one of where we ran was like a good place for Navajos, it's like Indian country. So there was like a lot of old hogans and stuff, and I was just out there all by myself in the middle of nowhere running, and I just let it all go. And since that day, I don't have any bad feelings about that stuff.
Again, you being like, I have to do this. This is something that I have to do. And it scoops you up and it takes you out of that darkness. And, I just want to keep pointing to that, because that's so good. It's so good that you recognize that you're in a place that's low and you're like, I'm going to go run a ultra. I don't even know what an ultra is. It sounds intense. You just say, but you did it. And you're like, and it's Navajo country, and it's where I felt good, and it's where I feel alive,
Yeah. So it was a good experience. I'm trying this next year. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and finish it in 8.5. Because last year I was like, as long as I can finish it in 10 or under, I'll be good. But then it ended up being like 10:20. I sat at the aid station for a long time at one spot. And
That's
then
okay.
I walked. Yeah. But it was like, okay. But this year I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and get more ready. And I'm going to try and finish it in 8.5.
It's cool.
Maybe 9 hours, but I want to finish it. That's my goal. So I have a lot planned for my summer. I'm praying it all works out. I want to go hike and camp in Grand Canyon. I've wanted to do that for so long, and so this year I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I've been talking to a couple of my friends, and they're like, yeah, let's get together. So I think it'd be cool to hike the Grand Canyon, do the rim to rim, and just camp and just be around my friends. I feel I have like new friends, and they really lift me up, and they really like inspire me to be a good person. I've never felt like I was a good person, but they're showing me a different part, and I love it. I love that. I feel happy. I don't have that anxious feeling. When I go home, like when I'm driving home or going home, I can just feel my stomach nodding. I feel really anxious, and I just feel like, I think I explained it as I feel like a fish out of the bowl. But the minute I leave and I go to the gym, or I'm going somewhere with somebody that I enjoy being with, I don't feel that. And that's my end goal, is to just enjoy my life. I've spent too many years stuck and just feeling like I had to fit this certain mold, or I had to please other people. But I think starting this year, that's changing. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and my son's finally old enough. He's a teenager, so he wants to do what he wants to do. So I'm feeling like, okay, now's my time to give Becky back her life, and to really give it 100%, and to do what I want to do. And I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come in the future.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll do more speaking engagements. Hopefully I'll get it out there. One day I hope to finish a book and have that out there.
That's something to look forward to.
Yeah. I have people
Cool.
trying to tell me like how to make this a business. I'm like, no, I kind of like my job. And I hope to still, be a police officer and really make that step. That's my end. Like, that's what I want to do. My short-term goal is to become a law enforcement officer, and to help people and just do it, because my job now, I do almost what they do, except I can't arrest people.
Right.
So I want to be on the other side. I want to do that part. I want to do all the fun things they do.
Yeah.
But I literally drive around at work, take my reports, do what I need to do. And some days I just will sit there and say, man, I can't believe I get paid to do this. It's just what they're talking about working a job you love. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've worked a lot of different jobs, and some days I hated it. But with my current job, there are rarely any days where I hate going to work. I can honestly say I love going to work every day. Thankful for my weekends so I can go out and hang out, but I can't ever say I hate my job.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Awesome, Becky. Well, I don't ever want to cut anybody off. And your story is empowering and it's encouraging. And I think that it's important too. Because you really are saying to people, you have a voice. I have a voice, and I'm going to use my voice to cut the shame out of this and know that it's not my shame, it's his shame. Or it's their shame, not mine. And that's what you're doing, and it's effective. So I appreciate you. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No.
Okay.
I'm cool. But
Cool.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
I enjoyed this. I shared on Facebook. I was like, my first podcast today.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to go find that and share it.
Okay.
Cool, Becky. Well, again, we just appreciate you and you as a human and you as just this person who's been through this tough thing, who had a beautiful childhood, right?
Yeah.
Some, your sister passing away is hard, and then to go through this, and it's that thing you said, you never will be 100%, but you know that you are going to continue in your life. And that's what we all need to do.
Yeah.
When something happens to us. So thank you for being here. And Cool. So this has been another episode of Small Town Expectations. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.